I've used a lot of Huawei phones over the years, and time and again it's been the same story. Spectacular hardware let down by decidedly crappy software. But in 2016 that started to change, and some of Huawei's more recent phones are actually really good all round. And this one right here might be the very best. I'm Alex Dobie with Android Central, and this is the Huawei P9 Plus. So if you think you've seen this phone before, you might be right. The P9 Plus is the big brother of the regular Huawei P9, and has a lot in common with that phone. Mostly the same slim metal design, same octa-core Kirin processor, same excellent fingerprint sensor, same crazy dual sensor, Leica branded camera around the back. But the Plus part gets you a few important upgrades: a bigger 5.5-inch screen, a larger 3400 mAh battery, and perhaps most important of all, an ample 4GB of RAM and 64GB of storage. There's a bit of extra visual flair too, with this eye-catching brushed pattern on the back and sides, and this neat orange accent on the power key, which I have no idea why it's there, but it adds a bit of panache all the same. Other than that, it's a pretty standard phone design. You might even call it boring. Nobody's going to stop you on the street or in the coffee shop and ask what you're using, unless they happen to be a fellow smartphone nerd. But what the P9 Plus lacks in bombast, it makes up for in sophistication. At a hair under 7mm thick, it's almost a full millimetre thinner than the Galaxy S7, and that means that even with a relatively large display, it's easy to slide into a jeans pocket. And no, there's no unsightly camera bump either, even with some really wild camera tech lurking inside. Like the P9, there are two 12-megapixel cameras around the back, one full colour, one black and white. Huawei says the monochrome sensor enhances contrast and dynamic range, and I can't really argue with the results. I'll say this up front, it's good, but it's not GS7 good. I can't just hit the shutter and guarantee that I'll get an outstanding shot like I can from just about any recent Samsung phone. Part of that has to do with the lack of optical stabilization, which can make low light shots grainy if you're not using a tripod and dedicated night shooting mode. But you know what? It might not be the best, but it's pretty close, surprisingly close, and rarely did I capture a photo that I wasn't happy with. Early on, Huawei made a big deal about the camera's Leica branding, before it emerged that yes, it is mostly just branding. Neither sensor is actually manufactured by the vintage camera maker, instead they've helped Huawei with image processing and tuning. But even so, I can't really complain about the results. The Huawei P9 Plus is more than just a pair of cameras and some strategic branding though. One of the main reasons why it's better than previous Huawei phones has to do with the company's EMUI software, which has slowly but surely become more tolerable over the past year. First up, something I found absolutely maddening about every Huawei phone I've reviewed up until now is its obnoxious skinning of app icons, which replaced apps' actual icons with older, dumber versions and a horrible rounded rectangular background. I've already written way too much about this particular pet hate, but anyway, that's gone now and that's great. EMUI 4.1 benefits from many smaller changes and bug fixes too, but the picture of a whole is still kind of a mashup between Android and iOS. The stock launcher has no app drawer and a very iPhone-like folder style, and even a pull-down gesture for searching apps. Huawei software is at its best when it's serving up genuinely useful features, like the ability to tweak your performance levels for extra battery life, swipe down in the gallery app to take a quick photo, or swipe the fingerprint scanner to show your notifications. And I've got to say, Huawei's fingerprint scanner is still the best I've used outside of Apple's Touch ID. Crazy fast to set up, and for me at least, more reliable than Samsung's. I don't know, maybe I just have weird fingers. Anyway, that's the best of Huawei, but at the other end of the spectrum there are still plenty of old, weird software things that I found grating in daily use. Notifications are the main offender here, with a heavily customized deck of alerts, and icons taken from contact pictures, not apps. Lock screen notifications are even more frustrating. They're limited to a single line, you can't expand them, and they disappear after you first unlock the phone. And then there's the fact that EMUI is still super aggressive about killing apps in the background, to the point where you need to set up a whitelist of protected apps just for things to work as normal. That's great when it improves battery life, not so great when you miss an Uber because Huawei decided to kill the app and hide its notifications, which may have happened to me at least once. Anyway, the good news is between all these battery tweaks and the fact the battery is pretty big anyway, the P9 Plus has no trouble getting through a full day. I'd struggle to get through 2 days between charges, but that's probably not impossible with lighter use. And that surely helped along with the fact that the display is an AMOLED panel at 1080p, which sure isn't as sharp as Quad HD, but it's also not as tough on the battery either. And when it's time to plug in, the P9 Plus supports Huawei's 9V quick charging, which isn't compatible with Qualcomm Quick Charge, but whatever, there's a quick charger bundled in the box. When it comes to day-to-day performance, there's one thing that's actually surprised me having come from the regular P9 to the P9 Plus. That extra gig of RAM isn't just for decoration, it really does make a difference. Not only does the Plus not have to reload apps as often, it's also noticeably quicker in general use. Maybe because it's not spending so many CPU cycles juggling things in and out of memory. Whatever the reason, the P9 Plus has always been a speedy performer, which is not something I can say about all Huawei phones. Bottom line, the P9 Plus is Huawei's best phone yet, and not just because many earlier models were a mess of bugs and other software issues. This is a genuinely good phone in its own right, maybe a little overpriced at £500 unlocked, and not as good as the very best from Samsung, but you know what? It's close. Really close.
It's the first Huawei phone I've actually been able to use as my daily driver for any length of time, and to put that in perspective, I've really railed on some of the company's older phones. So there's still some work to be done, but for now, the Huawei P9 Plus earns itself a solid recommendation from Android Central.